Recently, Apple's been more and more focused on productivity features for the iPad, which is great if you want to replace your laptop, but for me, it's still not quite at that point. Instead, I still use my iPad primarily for media consumption purposes, which is why the iPad mini 2021 made a lot of sense. With a brand new redesign, but still a super slim, lightweight form factor, this could be the perfect device for carrying around the house, watching videos, and reading ebooks. But how does it fare? Let's talk about it. This is NOISO, and this is the iPad mini 2021 review. I know this is a new design and all for the iPad mini, but honestly, it kind of feels a little old. Yes, generally, I still love the flat edges design and kind of the curved corners, but outside of that, it's not really the perfect ergonomic device. The larger bezels on the sides means that it's actually a little bit wider than older iPad minis, and it's just a little bit tired after all this point. Granted, I've been using iPad Pros for the last couple years, so I'm relatively familiar with this design, but I do wish Apple was able to take the smaller form factor and make something relatively different about it. At this point in time, this is the only premium mainstream small tablet, which is crazy. Samsung used to have small tablets every year that they released with their Tab S series, but they've recently stopped doing so. And so this is really your only option unless you want to go for either a budget model or an older iPad mini. Now, there are a couple of quirks with this design. First of all, the bezels being larger on the sides, but second of all, the volume buttons used to be on the right side, but they are now on the top of the device. This is to make room for the charging for the Apple Pencil, which now has the second generation Apple Pencil as compatible, which is a good thing, but the volume controls are actually a little bit odd in that they are actually sensitive to which direction you've actually placed your iPad. So if you've got it in landscape mode like this, then volume up is up and the volume down is down. If you've for some reason got it upside down, that button is volume up and this button is volume down. And then here it's the opposite. It really depends on which way you rotate it, which shouldn't be really a problem, but it has been confusing for me because I typically am familiar with older iPads having one button for volume up and one button for volume down. It's kind of bizarre. Obviously, after longer terms of use, it's probably not going to bother you. What's also new is where there used to be a Touch ID sensor on the front of the device, there's now a Touch ID sensor on the top, similar to the iPad Air 4th generation. I really am not too impressed with this Touch ID sensor. Now, granted, I've had mixed results with side-mounted fingerprint sensors in the past, but I will say the Galaxy Fold 3 and the Galaxy Z Flip 3 both have better fingerprint sensors than this one, in that this is just a little bit slow. I frequently have a tendency to just tap it and expect it to recognize my fingerprint, but it will ask me to hold it down for longer. I didn't used to have this problem with older iPads with front-mounted fingerprint sensors. I don't really have too much of a preference, but I will say that Face ID on my iPad Pros have been faster than the Touch ID experience on this. But it's small enough of a difference to not really matter for most people. While I normally say that iPadOS is consistent across iPads, that's not really the case with the smaller screen here. Some of the sizing is kind of odd, so the home screen being the best example, since there's a lot of padding around the applications, and so there's not a lot of spacing between them. And so you get this kind of cramped layout. And then in addition to that, I have a lot of problems with YouTube. And granted, I watch way too much YouTube in the first place, but one problem that I consistently have with smaller sized tablets is that the elements on YouTube's screen don't scale to the size of the screen quite as much. And so a lot of the times the kind of 3-button menu besides videos, for example, is a lot more difficult to press than on a phone screen where you've got a little bit more precision. Another difference between this and the larger iPads is the internals. This has an A14 chip, which is not bad at all. It's incredibly fast, but it will be slower than the larger iPad. I didn't really usually notice in day-to-day use, but something about this really felt significantly slower than the iPad Pros that I'm used to using. One of the reasons for that might be the 60 Hz refresh rate on the screen, where I'm used to the kind of smoother 120 Hz refresh rate, but I didn't really think that should be a big difference considering I'm used to using 60 Hz iPhones. The other downside of the internals here is that it starts with 64 gigs of storage, which I thought would be enough considering I've used a lot of phones with only 64 gigs, but the very first week that I ended up taking this on a trip with me, I tried to download a number of videos to watch on the plane and unfortunately quickly bounced up against that 64 gig limit. I didn't expect it, but it was quite disappointing. If you're only planning on reading Kindle books on this, for example, then you're probably not going to hit that limit. But if you plan on downloading YouTube and HBO Max and Netflix or anything along those lines, you probably should go for the 128 gig model. At $500 starting price, it seems to be a little bit steep for only 64 gigs. Now, after having this device for a few months, I've started to wonder what the perfect use case for it is. Because yes, I could generally carry it around the house and watch videos on it and stuff like that. But when I start to sit down and relax, before bed or anything like that, I actually prefer having a larger display in order to set the tablet up and watch it from somewhere, rather than having a smaller display that I have to carry around everywhere. So instead, this becomes more of a mobile device. But of course, this can't fit into just about any of my pockets, and probably most people's. And so it's not something that I could easily take on the road unless I was bringing a bag along. I'm sure if I was moving from coffee shop to coffee shop and I wanted to be able to easily pull out a tablet to browse the web, browse social media, and read Kindle books, then this would probably be perfect for me. But once I started going and being more productive, then a larger tablet would probably be better for that. Now, as I've mentioned in Galaxy Fold reviews, there's a direct benefit to having a larger screen to browse the web or submit forms or anything like that. The benefit of the Galaxy Fold is you can easily take it on the road. Granted, it's a lot more expensive, so it's not a direct comparison, despite Mr. Mobile doing exactly that. Instead, one additional benefit of this is having the Apple Pencil, which is a great feature if you are the type of person that wants to take notes or quickly jot down any sort of recipes or anything along those lines. Or maybe you're an artist and you want to take quick sketches on the go. That's all really cool stuff. But frankly, I found that the Apple Pencil was more of a burden than a convenience, considering it kind of takes the entire side of the device up, and so it kind of restricts my ability to hold the tablet by this side without accidentally knocking it off. So if I had a preference, then I'd probably just leave it behind. For a very, very rare person who realizes that this has a USB-C port and a lot of the internals of pretty powerful iPads, you realistically could use this as a content creation device, plugging it into a larger docking station and actually doing LumaFusion video editing or anything like that on it, because it's got quite a lot of power. But I have a lot of other devices that have more power that probably would be more convenient for those purposes. But it's an idea for those who want to try it. So that leaves me at this point where the iPad mini is a very, very convenient, awesome little screen device that is perfect for bringing around the house, but it's not perfect for much more than that. Though I love purpose-built devices, there's no one purpose that this really aces for me. Instead, I'm better off having a larger 11-inch iPad Pro or a smaller, 6-inch phone in order to accomplish most of the things that I'm doing. So who's this device for then? Well, if any of the earlier scenarios that I mentioned really appeal to you, or if you're currently on an iPad mini 2nd generation that's getting a little slow, then this could be perfect for you. It has all of the premium features that you'd expect out of an iPad mini that was made in 2021. For anyone else who's, hoping to get into the iPad mini because it looks really appealing, keep in mind that you can't really force yourself into a use case unless you really have an idea of a use case in mind. I tried to do so because I love the idea of the iPad mini, but none of the use cases really make sense for what I typically do with a tablet. So with that, we're going to wrap up. Thank you for watching NOISO. I hope you liked this review of the iPad mini 2021. If you did, be sure to leave a comment down below, like, and get subscribed for more videos just like this. And be sure to check out my iPad playlist as well, where I review tons of iPad products and do a bunch of wacky things with them. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.